After centuries of sleep, of nothingness, I have returned.
Welcome back to the channel, guys. Please subscribe, leave a like at the beginning of the video, leave a comment. Welcome back to Eye of the Storm, presented to you by me, Onikage, where we go through and analyze stories from the Daily Stormer or Hoax Watch. Today's story is from Mississippi. 14-year-old girl kills mom, shoots dad in apparent case of marijuana-induced psychosis by Elvis Dunderhoff. We have this tweet talking about Carly Gregg shot her mother. I saw this video and I thought it was a man. Apparently it's a woman. Watch this part. On the phone, two dogs. She had seen a demon. Carly Gregg's stepdad and surviving victim says he thought the thing shot him because there was an intruder, and the 14-year-old was screaming out of her mind scared. So they are making the insanity defense for her already. Okay. So this is paranoid delusion. It's an old and easy defense to cases like this. And I believe that we need to review insanity defenses, because they're like psychosis. People can do the most heinous crimes, and the person that says, oh, he was insane, or it's a psychosis, marijuana, the person didn't look high on marijuana. And we know from the myth of mental illness, that by Dr. Thomas Schaas. This is such an important book. You don't even need to read the whole book. This is how good this book is. This book is so good. You just need to read the foreword, the introduction, and the first chapter. And then your entire mind on mental illness and how you look at it, how you think about it, is going to change forever. Foundations of a theory of personal conduct. That is it. It's just personal conduct. Think about the last time you called somebody insane, crazy, mad. Most of the time, you're making comments about the person's morality, not necessarily making a medical diagnosis of the person's mind. Think about the last time somebody was mad and the person got cured of their madness. Has that ever happened? Think about it. Anyway, the US government and other zogs continue to claim marijuana is a safe and effective way to keep the population docile and subservient. However, there's increasing evidence that this is not the case. A Mississippi teen who sat in her kitchen alongside two dogs moments after she allegedly killed her mother is accused of texting her friend that she had an emergency and trying to lure her stepfather back to the home. Carly Gregg, 15, accused of murdering her mother, a teacher in Brandon, Mississippi, March 19th, when they discovered her secret life. Exactly, secret life. There is a reason. People have reasons. They always do. They don't have to tell you, and you don't have to believe them either. But everybody is responsible for their actions. Personal conduct. So let's go. Nirvana band t-shirt awkwardly shuffled around the house, holding something behind the back. Later identified a .357 Magnum. Facing the camera so it could not detect the weapon. Wow. That is crazy. 14-year-old when she was arrested, killed her mother, wounded her stepfather. Loud bang. Fire scream detected by the camera footage obtained by law and crime. She returned after 10 seconds after the shooting, hiding the weapon. Grabbed her mother's phone off the counter. Where will it be home? She shot him in the shoulder before the stepfather overpowered it and arrested the gun from her. That is insane. So she had the gun. So this is somebody who is insane and let's see what it says here. This is somebody who is insane and marijuana-induced psychosis, but she's conscious enough here. She's conscious enough to hide the gun. She knows where the camera is facing. She can hide the gun, and she just keeps the gun hidden throughout the entire episode. She knows the angles, so she knows how to keep the gun very well. Is that marijuana-induced? No, it's not. This is a calculated murder. But then she's 14, so it's like, oh, criminal responsibility and things like this. Or she's a woman, she's traumatized, marijuana. How do you get marijuana psychosis if you're not supposed to smoke marijuana in the first place? Anyways, so here we go. See. This is it. Psychiatrist Dr. Ang Clark testified that the teen was facing a mental health crisis that day. What does that mean? What does this mean? When you have a theory of personal conduct. This book, it's online, it's free, you can find it. This book helps you understand that this whole thing is a hoax that they just use to get you on drugs, Ritalin and other psychotic drugs. You have to read this book. It's online, find it for yourself, read it at your own pace. But basically what he's saying is, one, you cannot open someone's brain and look at the person's mind to detect that there's something wrong with the person's brain affecting the person's mind, causing this particular behavior. What happens is we are so appalled by people who perform acts so out of our moral field that they must be insane. You see somebody in the street eating shit, going through the trash, the person is insane. Because morality, cleanliness, these things are bound together. So when you see a mad person in a movie, like an African movie, when a person goes mad, you see them with rubbish in their hair, going through trash, rolling on the floor. That's cleanliness. Cleanliness is part of the way people show their sanity. So if you are walking down the street and you see a bum, the first thing you think about a bum is that he's dirty and that he has mental problems. You see? So vile acts like shooting your mother and things like this are easily associated. This is not a situation of cleanliness. This is a situation of just the sheer lack of morality in the action. But it's the same thing. People are easily able to, quote unquote, diagnose a bum with madness. The same way here, a psychiatrist just comes to court and says, yeah, she was facing a mental health crisis that day. How do you know this? Having significant mood swings made worse by her medication. That is what is happening here. Medication. So these things are drug-induced. A person naturally doesn't just go around doing these types of things. They're usually drug-induced. But to call it an illness is something like a cold. It has a cause, it has symptoms, it has cures. You know what I mean? Let's see, not just a cold, let's say like tuberculosis or freaking cholera or dysentery. That's what an illness is. It's like an insoluble, clinically tested, probably repeated ailment that medically you can identify. For example, this person is a psychiatrist, right? A psychiatrist is an actual physician, but most people don't know the difference between a psychiatrist and a psychologist. What is the difference? Right? So psychologists hold with a PhD or a PsyD focus on psychotherapy, psychological testing and research. psychiatrists and medical doctors who specify in mental health. What then is a psychologist? Do you see the difference? Do you know the difference? Do most people know the difference? So that's why this person's testimony is going to be very strong for this girl. But based on what? How is the psychiatrist conducting the examination? How do you do that? And what exactly in the brain can you point to say, this part of the brain is fixed neurologically, that's what's causing her to act like this? That's not true. Because that doesn't happen, because the brain and the mind are two separate entities. So what law does is, the law, for ease of convenience, the law tends to conflate the two. That, okay, so you have actus reus, you have mens rea, right? So actus reus, mens rea. So you have, where is it? So you have the act. Let's do mens rea. I think we're talking more about the mental aspect of it. So mens rea. Mens rea is a guilty mind. The mental state of the defendant who is committing a crime. So the law adds this layer to it. So when you see somebody going to shoot the mother, the law is asking why, what is going through your mind. That's the difference between a murder and a manslaughter, right? But how can you tell somebody's intentions? The law, we can't read your mind, but we can read your actions. But the law still asks the question of what is going on in your mind. How do you find that out? You find that out through a couple of legal fictions, right? Act is not culpable unless the mind is guilty. See? But how do you determine the guilt or the guilt of the mind? When you have a psychiatrist saying that she was having mood swings. What is a mood swing? So a mood swing is a mental health problem. Does that mean that mood swings, right? Mood swings during period or pregnancy, PMS. So this means that women have mental problems. Because what is a mood swing? What is a mood swing? Extreme or sudden change of mood. We call that bipolar, do we not? Extreme mood swings. You see? So, meaning that every woman who has mood swings is bipolar. So, do you see how it works? Bipolar disorder, formerly called manic depression. This is what they called Kanye West. This is what Kim Kardashian went on Twitter or wherever to call Kanye West. It's a mental health condition. Now, what is the difference between a mental health condition and a mental illness? Do you see? This is how words are being used to deceive you, right? You have mental health condition. Now, just watch this. Just watch. Mood swings, right? How is a mood swing extreme? What makes a mood swing extreme? We don't know. But here you have mood swings. Then you have bipolar disorder, right? Then you have, and what bipolar disorder used to be called manic depression. So why did you change the name, for example? Then instead of calling it a mental illness, which will classify women who have this problem because of their problems, premenstrual syndrome, mood swings for about a week, So they can't call it manic depression because that means all women are insane, which they are. But then they now call it bipolar. So what's the difference? So you have now, instead of calling it a mental illness like it used to be called, like we all know it to be, right? They call it a mental health condition. Is a mental health condition an illness or not? So find that out for yourselves. But I think if I'm angry enough, I'll dedicate a different video to this. But just understand that you are being lied to. There's no such thing as mental illness. That is why they've changed it from mental illness to mental health condition. That's why they changed it from mental illness to mental health condition to mental health crisis. What is this word? This is not a medical word. This is more of an emotional word. This is more of a social word in the context of a medical analysis. A mental health crisis is not a disease. That's not a disease, Dr. Clark. So you can see that this is more of an emotional, it's more of an emotional discussion. A mental health crisis, oh, here we go. A mental health crisis is when someone's behaviors prevent them from functioning or indicate that they may harm themselves or others. A crisis can feel overwhelming and might seem as if the coping skills you usually have to no longer work. Is this medicine? Guys, is this medicine? This is not medicine. It is not. This is not medicine. Just understand that. Right. So that day, so she was facing a mental health crisis that day, having significant mood swings, made worse by her medications as she was hearing voices and having dissociative problems. So that lane. Right. And then her mother finds out she's smoking marijuana. For Carly in particular, she's so cared about her mother's approval for her this was a crisis. So do you see? So she is on, where's the medication? She's, so she's on medication. What medication? Who put her on the medication? Was it this doctor? You put her on medication, she feels terrible, then she has to smoke weed, and then she ends up killing everyone. So why should she be on medication? What is the medication? Why don't you tell us what the medication is? Because that costs money. This girl's life is ruined by this myth that you are ill, so let's give you this substance to ingest, and then you have access to marijuana from the rap music, from the rappers, and then you end up killing everyone. I saw this video, I thought it was a boy, I didn't know it was a girl. Prepping for my Senate Judiciary Subcommittee. By looking at papers on cannabis and psychosis that have come out since the paperback on Tell Children. So many. This one from March says half of new young patients with psychosis had a cannabis use disorder. Cannabis use disorder. So these are just very strange things. This one from Scotland last year says cannabis-related hospital admissions rose 8 times in 20 years, and they're prevalent among young people. Black culture, hip-hop, rap music, promoting drugs, whatever. This one just came out last month and says regular teen cannabis users are more than 5 times likely to have psychotic symptoms as non-users, even after adjusting for other factors. So that's what this was. Teen study, cannabis use disorder, depression, anxiety, and psychotic-like symptoms in adolescent and cannabis users in age match controls. So there's that. So weed smokers, I'm not even going to discuss it, because I'm not even going to talk about it, to promote it, or to denounce it. But I think this is more of a bigger story of mental illness than it is about a particular drug. So that's it, guys. I think I need to do a deeper dive into the mental health crisis and the medications. Why are you giving these children these drugs? And then how come they're having to cope with marijuana? That's the real question. So it's unfortunate this woman has to lose her life. What drugs is she on? Why? Who gave her the drugs? You're prescribing drugs for a 14-year-old child. For God's sake. Drugs that alter your mind. Of course she's going to go postal. It's so sad, and that's what truly needs to be addressed. So this is the truth here. It's not about killing her mother. The question is, and it's buried very deep, right? It's buried. Made worse by her medications. Why is a 14-year-old girl on prescribed drugs? What are those drugs? Who manufactures those drugs? Who prescribes those drugs? That is the answer to this entire story. Because mental illness is a myth. It is. I think, yeah, maybe for my main story on this, I will break this book down. I think that's the faster way of doing it. I'll break down this book. I'll read it in full again, or maybe the 6th or 7th time, so I don't do it off head. And I'll break the book down as we move along. So it's unfortunate, but this is the true story here. What drugs was she on? Who prescribed them? Who manufactures them? Because mood swings are normal, because women have had them forever. Mental health crisis doesn't mean anything. And who are you? Were you there, Dr. Clark? Right? This, of course, like all drugs, they contribute to some kind of behavioral changes, but this is the real problem. So thank you guys so much for watching. Please leave a like, subscribe to the channel for more. This was a quick one, I hope, and I hope you learned something. And we'll continue on this journey together and expose this myth that has turned into a billion-dollar industry. This myth of mental illness. Dr. Thomas Schaas was actually one of the first people in history to be cancelled because he criticized psychiatry and he argues against the concept of mental illness. So it's not just Andrew Tate and all these other people talking about mental illness being a myth. He talked about this in 1961. There's an entire industry of mental illness, and he exposed it in 1961, and he was ousted and cancelled and things like this. So we'll go down this rabbit hole. And he says, this is so funny, the legitimacy of psychiatry is questioned by Thomas Schaas, who compares it to alchemy and astrology. Don't you notice also that women who like to talk about, oh, my mental health, my Sagittarius is rising, they also talk about astrology. So we'll see how that goes. And then I'll see you all in the next one. Once again, like and subscribe. This has been your boy Onikage. I'll see you in the next one. Take care.
Something comes back to me. I was great once. Feared. Yes. Once I was strong. Powerful beyond measure. Beyond imagining. So weak now. Must find blood.
the best guy at synthesizing this stuff, because he's just been hitting these things out of the park.